What's up, y'all? You're listening to the Extra Point College Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Karn, joined as always by my co-host, Daniel Hammock. On today's episode, we're talking NFL Draft, the one crossover event between the NFL and college football. We will do a live mock draft, alternating picks. We will mention any players that didn't get picked for days 2 and 3. We will talk about who are some late bloomers versus who peaked in college football. We'll talk that at the end as well. Daniel, how you doing? You ready to dive in? I know this is your wheelhouse. This is probably one of your favorite episodes that we get to do.
Yeah, I love this one. Like you said, it's the crossover between college football and the NFL. It's kind of fun because you get to, obviously see all the NFL draft coverage, but one of the best parts of the coverage is that they're showing highlights of college football. So it's great, love affair between the two. And it's really where I first understood that, like, what you may think about a player from college may not be what these NFL guys are thinking. And so it's always been fascinating. So excited to do our annual mock draft.
I have a question, Daniel. What channel, when the draft comes on Thursday night, what channel are you going to have the TV on while you're watching the draft?
This is very tough. I will tell you the coverage I like the most is NFL Network. Daniel Jeremiah is the best in the business, bar none. I think Rich Eisen is going to be the guy throwing it around. Again, one of the greats, one of the classics. Would love to just listen to them the whole time. I don't know if they own the rights to the chime. The chime is important to me, the NFL draft chimes for the selection. For some reason, I think that last year when I was listening to it, they did not do the chime. Meanwhile, ESPN does the chime.
Okay.
So I will watch usually ESPN. They have 3 broadcasts they have 3 total broadcasts. You got NFL Network, you got regular ESPN with Mel Kiper, and then you got the channel 2, like the ABC one, which is like the College Game Day crew. If I'm forced to listen to the ESPN one, I'll listen to the College Game Day crew because they're going to talk more about the college player, which I appreciate. I don't have to listen to Mel Kiper crash out. But once it gets to like late in the draft, it doesn't matter because they're going to put everybody on the same stage. Daniel Jeremiah is the best one to listen to, though. My personal opinion.
I agree. So. Okay, is Rich Eisen going to be on ESPN now since his show is or is he still on the NFL Network?
NFL Network was purchased by ESPN, so there's a lot of crossover.
That's right.
But I don't know.
So maybe they'll have the chime this
year. That's what I'm hoping. Last year, they did not have the official rights yet. If they are officially on, if they've got the chime, I'm going to be wall to wall just watching the NFL Network the whole time. That's easy. Because Rich Eisen is my favorite as far as that goes, and Daniel Jeremiah is my favorite actual analyst. So,
same. You and I are on the same page. Yeah, dude. NFL Network. I had to ask you that. That was an important question for me.
This isn't ESPN hate. There's times where I do hate ESPN, but it's more just like I just prefer the best coverage. And then like the whole Shedeur crash out that Mel had last year was kind of off-putting to a lot of people. So.
Well, unfortunately, it's not his only bad take. So, I'm very, whatever, like, I'll take Desmond Howard over Mel Kiper. You know what I mean? Like, that's saying something for what it's worth. That's saying something, hand up. Like, it stinks when you're like, this is the only, I'm not going to crap on Mel Kiper anyway. I'm sure he's a nice guy, but will not be choosing him for my viewing entertainment.
I miss Todd McShay draft. For what it's worth. The ESPN coverage was better with Todd McShay. He's no longer there.
Agreed.
So.
Well, because then they could
like
disagree,
the new guys, Jordan Reed and what's the other guy? Draft expert Miller, whatever his name
Matt
is.
Miller.
Matt Miller. I like Matt Miller and I like Jordan Reed, but they're not going to get any play until like day 3, maybe a little bit of day 2. You're going to get Louis Riddick. You're going to get Mel Kiper.
I do like Louis Riddick.
Yates. I like Louis Riddick. I like Field Yates. I wish Field Yates would get his haircut back again. That would be great. And then,
talking haircuts here on the Extra Point.
Yeah, it's important. You're into the uniforms. I'm into the haircut. When he started growing his hair out,
it is important.
At that point I was like, all right, I'm going to take a step back in listening to you a little bit. So
it's hilarious. All right, Daniel, I've got our mock draft here pulled up. I'll give you your pick. Would you like, I know what you're going to say. I think you want odd or even numbers.
You think I'm going to say that I want odd so I don't have to pick for the Saints?
What's funny is I thought you were going to say even so that you could pick for the Saints to make a bad pick.
That's actually what I want to do. You do know me, Jacob. No, I just want to ensure that the Saints don't draft a Georgia player so that I can, live with myself. Yeah, I'll take the evens if that's if I've got the option, I'll take the evens.
You will always get the option for our NFL draft episode. This is your baby. So yes. All right. So first pick. Look, we're not going to go hot take. Let me set this up a little bit. This is some college experts' take on the NFL draft. We got to watch these players for the last 3 to 8 years in college. And so therefore we are going to, this is what we would do based on the team needs. So for example, we might think more highly of a linebacker, that might be, according to draft experts, 6th on the board. But we're like, hey, don't overthink this. They played linebacker for Alabama. We might have them 2nd on the board.
Exactly.
So that's kind of we're not trying to do hot take. For example, I'm taking Mendoza number 1 overall, because we're also going to try to be accurate here of that's going to happen. So I'm not going to have some hot take of, well, here's what they should do. Right. They're taking Mendoza. We're going to start there. But these are 2 college experts' take on the NFL draft. So if we know the Jets are targeting, a wide receiver, then we might go and say, okay, well, who do we think is the best wide receiver? So this shouldn't be too different, but has tended to have happened while we do this is, for example, we were never taking Zach Wilson number 2 overall. We thought that was insane.
Exactly.
Or turn on the tape.
And it's look where the Jets are because of it. They did it, and look where they are. Come on.
I mean, this is the whole Mitch Trubisky over Deshaun Watson pre-legal issues.
Yeah.
Which it's like, hey, watch Deshaun. Look what he did anyway. Sometimes we've talked about this countless times, Daniel. Sometimes NFL GMs overthink the room to try to look like they know what they're doing and look fancy. And 9 times out of 10, it bites them in the butt. So we're not going to overthink the room on 100%.
This one. Awesome.
Okay, number 1 overall, Raiders. They're drafting a quarterback, even though they've got who'd they just trade for?
Kirk O'Chains. Kirk Cousins.
Okay, I was like, wait, was it Kirk? I was like, wasn't he just there?
No, that was Kirk. Yeah.
I was mixing him and what's his face up, Christian White quarterbacks. Dude, who was their quarterback, man? Derek Carr. Carr. I was Derek like, no. Carr. Yeah, I was like, Kirk. I was like, Kirk already played for the Raiders, and that was Derek Carr. Kirk O'Chains. Anyway, they're drafting Mendoza. Let's not waste time. Mendoza to the Raiders. Daniel, you got the Jets.
Yeah, I think that's a excellent pick. I'm going to actually have the Jets for both of their picks. There's several. I think there's 4 teams that have 2 picks in the first round.
Must be nice.
The Jets are one of those. Yeah. Well, and I don't know what's going to happen with James Pierce legal situation for the Falcons. I'm wearing my Falcon shirt. If he does end up being able to stay on the team and just get suspended, then I think the Falcons still made a good trade. He's a terrible person, apparently, but they got James Pierce, who did great, had 10.5 sacks last year, and Xavier Watts. LA ends up picking for Atlanta in this draft. Anyways, nonetheless, let's jump in. Jets at 2, top needs. Obviously, always quarterback, but Fernando's gone, so you don't reach for a guy here, maybe. Wide receiver, edge rusher. All the chatter has been to kind of get them to shade away from David Bailey at Texas Tech. I think that's a smokescreen. I think they're going to take David Bailey. I think they're open to a trade back to get more picks because they have a lot of needs. But if they stick, which we're not doing trades here, I think they take David Bailey, edge, Texas Tech.
David Bailey, edge, Texas Tech. Okay. There we go. Edge. All right. I got the Cardinals. Again, I think this is simple. And I'll also share, Daniel, my draft strategy. A little bit of, my take on the draft too. I'm also position. I'm not taking a running back in the top 5. I don't care how good you think Jeremiah Love is. It's not happening. I watched a great video to back up. I know. It's not happening for me. How's that?
He's the only one that's going to get drafted, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's the only one that could. You know what I mean? It's like Bijan a few years ago, which I've told you I stand corrected on to a point. I watched a great video. I'll have to send you, Daniel, backing up what I think about it, which is, anyway, it's about positional value. All that being said, you need a tackle Francis Magoa is just sitting here in the top 3. I'm drafting Francis Magoa from Miami as a tackle for the Cardinals.
It's a great pick. Yeah, they have had a lot of smoke recently about Jeremiah Love, and I'm pretty sure they are just doing the whole, hey, we're going to take him. Y'all better trade up and get him. I think that's what they're really doing. So good call there. If they stick, I do think they like tackle. If I'm the Titans, I am not walking. I'm running the card to the commissioner's desk and getting Arvell Reese, edge from Ohio State. There's a lot of talk that he could be the 2nd overall to the Jets. He could go 3rd overall to the Cardinals. He's one of those kinds of players. Titans' top need is all of the defense, but especially the edge. Arvell Reese is one of those players, high motor, great size. I think that's who they would go for.
Well, if I'm the Giants, I'm then running to the podium, whatever, and drafting Sonny Styles, who I think is the best linebacker in the class. He's a top 5 overall player. Him and Arvell Reese both. I would take Arvell Reese over David Bailey personally, but
okay,
I get the stuff as a prospect there. But
that's fair.
Yeah, from the Giants, taking Sonny Styles in the top 5 to the Giants.
I think that, obviously they got Scattaboo last year. There's still been some talk that they're interested. One of the teams in love. But the fact that he didn't go there would intrigue me if I'm the Browns. They are in need of any great player that they can get their hands on. But wide receiver is actually one of their top needs, and they've got a guy sitting right there in Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. So we're going 3 straight Buckeyes in this draft. He's the number 1 wide receiver, but he's just a complete player. You think about it, it's also a nice little grab for your hometown because, the Cleveland fan base, a lot of those people are Ohio State fans as well. So give me Carnell Tate to the Browns at 6 overall.
All right. You've said the Skins, the Washington football team here at 7, which I grew up a Cowboys fan. So I still not a Washington fan necessarily, but I'm not going to screw them here. They need some wide receiver help. I think they're taking one of these 2 wide receivers. Carnell Tate you took. If I'm Washington, I'm taking Mekhi Lemon, USC. I think a separated wide receiver class, and that I think you've got like 2 that are going to go in the top 10 and maybe wait a little bit. Like I think there's a clear 1 and 2 in this class and a gap. And so I think Carnell Tate and Mekhi Lemon are your 2, like no doubt NFL starting, wide receiver 1 studs, and then a gap after that. So I'm going ahead and shoring up that I'm getting the second one there at number 7 for the Commanders.
Yeah, there's been a lot of smoke recently about Jordan Tyson, wide receiver, Arizona State. I like Lemon like you do ahead of him, but it's all over the place. This is definitely smoke screen season. Everybody's trying to play their hand. It's amazing that Jeremiah Love has made it this far. I definitely blame you, Jacob, for him dropping. I've been told that his floor is getting picked 7th overall. I'm drafting for my hated rival, the Saints, aka the Aints. But there's nothing but great players here. A great fit, I think they have a big need at cornerback. And Mansour Delane out of LSU. They love taking their LSU guys in New Orleans. I'm going to just stick with that fit. I like that fit a lot. I would be tempted to take Jeremiah Love right here if I am New Orleans, just with an aging, Alvin Kamara, and, they've got some other guys that are just dudes. That nobody's elite. This is where you would go shopping for one of those guys, but I'm sticking with Delane at cornerback. I think it fills a need, and it's a great player available.
All right, so you're going Sword Delane.
So look what just fell into the Chiefs' lap, okay, at 9.
Are you talking about Jeremiah Love?
You're not going to give it to him. I know you're not.
I'm not. It's a top 10 pick. Why would you waste something on a running back? Especially when you need an edge player, and Ruben Bain sitting here at number 9. So I'm running to the table and drafting Ruben Bain out of Miami. I think he is the best. This is one of those outthink the room things. Is you see how David Bailey measures, you see how Arvell Reese measures, and I know there's something to that. Of you can play smaller in college, you don't play as good as competition. You've got to have a minimum body size in the NFL. I get all of that, but to me, there's a difference in, for example, Trayvon Walker. Trayvon Walker did not explode stat-wise at Georgia, but the role he played very well and still popped on tape, and then he measured amazing. That to me would be like an Arvell Reese of like played his role extremely well and measured amazing. Ruben Bain is just, hey, turn on the tape and don't overthink this. I know he doesn't measure as well as David Bailey, but I mean, man, well, look what he did. Even in the playoff run against the best teams he played. Look at how he performed against the best teams. He blew up teams' offensive plans. He made offensive play callers call around him. I'm not even kidding. I'm running to the table from the Chiefs. You don't draft a running back when Ruben Bain's sitting here and you need edge help. So give me Ruben Bain from Miami. And look at this. Now the Giants have 2 top 10 picks, and look what fell to number 10 for.
Well, here's the thing. Jeremiah Love is such a he's such a good player. He is one, like, normally the way the draft boards work, he's one of these guys that's like written in towards the top, but positional value, like you were talking about, Jacob, drops him a little bit. But there is a cliff that you fall off of as far as running backs go for the rest of this, So I think teams are trading up to get him if this was to get to where he's dropping.
Yeah.
I don't think he is making it out of the top 10. If this is the situation that happens, and I am New York, and I have Cam Skattebo, I am still drafting Jeremiah Love at number 10 overall. Skattebo coming off that obviously gruesome injury, lower extremity injury. Dude, go ahead and take him. And then when Skattebo comes back, it doesn't hurt to have multiple playmakers in the backfield, especially with Jeremiah Love's ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. Now you've got 2 receiving backs. It's going to help that offense even more so. So, yeah, Jeremiah Love 10 to the Giants.
Miami going through a little bit of a rebuild and reset. What they're going to need, though, is they let Tua walk, because they're going to need some offensive line help for whatever is sitting there at quarterback. I'm going who I think is the second best offensive line prospect in this draft. Give me Monroe Freeling, Georgia. From the Dolphins, taking the second best tackle in the draft in Monroe Freeling. That's what I'm taking.
And it's a good pick. I think he's definitely going to go in the top 20. I feel that a lot more teams, because he can actually project as a left tackle. Most of the tackles in the first round are actually, like, I think their ceiling's a right tackle. So he's someone who could eventually flip. Well, man, the Cowboys get to be flashy here.
They're wishing they could have drafted another running back in the first round.
They are. Dude, if Jeremiah Love dropped, they would do it. I do like 2 picks here for them. They have a need at corner. Jermon McCoy is a really great, but there is currently some question in circles about his injury history and like kind of where he's at this moment. With that being said, I'm taking the no-brainer. You need the slam dunk for the first round pick, and it is still a need. Safety, Caleb Downs, best player available on the board. Don't overthink it. Caleb Downs, stud. He's going to look great with the star on the helmet.
See, he does not need to be taken outside of the top 10. He's a top 5 prospect in this draft, in my opinion. That's where I'd have gone if I was the Giants at 10. But, I guess people have to have their running back.
Well, safety is one of those positional values that does drop. So you've got Hamilton
right.
Kyle Hamilton was the guy that dropped. Derwin James got picked late in the first. So definitely these guys that are great, they still get picked later. This is right at the good spot for him.
Where'd Starks get drafted? Was he in the first round?
Yeah, he was like second overall, I think.
And I mean, he was the best safety of that draft, and he was in the 20s. So it makes sense. Okay, Rams. Is Nakua going to be suspended? Wide receiver help.
Yeah, I don't know.
Backer, tackle. Think it. You know what? You got an aging Matthew Stafford. Let's go ahead and get some more offensive line help. Spencer Fano. Is it Fano? Utah.
Yeah, I think Fano. Yeah.
Fano. There you go. Spencer Fano, Utah, to the Rams at 13.
Awesome. All right. Well, here we are. Baltimore, the new look Baltimore with no John Harbaugh at the helm. Interesting to see kind of where they're going to be. Defensive tackle at the top of their list. They also losing out some of their offensive linemen. Could go interior there. I think that's more of a second round grab. I like the Jermon McCoy fit right here. Corner is one of their needs, and I think that best player available, what Baltimore's become famous for. So Jermon McCoy, Tennessee, cornerback to Baltimore.
Does not hurt you to take best player available. Never, I don't think. Okay, the Buccaneers at 15. Ed is a need. Linebacker's a need. This might seem like a reach here, Daniel, but I think I'm going to go with another Miami edge player. I think I'm going to go Mesidor here for the Bucs. Miami had an unbelievable tandem at edge this past season. Both, I think, are going to be taken the first round, and in this case, in our draft, the top 15. So give me a key Mesidor out of Miami to the Bucs here at 15.
I love it. Yeah. Here we come to the Jets at 16 overall. They're going to, they picked David Bailey early. They still have a need at wide receiver. There's a glaring need at quarterback. Excuse me. Do you take Ty Simpson this early? He's my second ranked quarterback. I think that somebody's going to trade back in and try to get him. I was listening to somebody say that the best thing you can do if you don't have a slam dunk at quarterback is just keep drafting the best players so that when you do get your quarterback, the groundwork is laid. And I think that's what they're going to do right here with Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State, 16 overall. 27 draft has a lot of good players, and there's expected to be a handful of good quarterbacks. I think the Jets might still take a guy a little bit later just to kind of see, but next season may be when they draft their quarterback, and hopefully that time they've got some guys that can help around him.
All right, if I'm Dan Campbell and the Lions, I'm taking a lineman of some sort here at 17. Give me, I'm not going to pretend I know how to say his name. Offensive guard out of Penn State.
Yeah, that's a great one. I have no idea how to say his name.
He's
either.
Great.
Olave
Vega. Yeah.
Ione. Yeah, great pick.
Ione. There you go.
Totally say his name all the time.
Great player, big dude. I think got overshadowed by obviously a chaotic Penn State season this year, but really good prospect. And Dane Campbell gets an offensive guard, and he's hitting his head up against the wall, fired up about it. So,
yeah. Well, all right. Well, then we're moving right along. We got Minnesota Vikings at 18 overall. Their top need is safety. Good for them. One of the best players available is a safety. So second safety's coming off the board here. Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon. So I think he comes off here at 18. I think it's a good fit with positional need as well as overall value.
I love it. All right. I'm struggling here, Daniel, with the Panthers because I think you're a little bit reaching for a tackle at this point as far as best players available. Safety you just took. I wouldn't take McNeil Warren out of Toledo here. Defensive tackle. It's kind of like everything you're kind of reaching for, but tight end's a need. You got Kenyon Sadiq, but I'm debating here, Daniel. You know what I'm going to do here from the Panthers? Let's give Bryce Young another weapon. Let's go Omar Cooper Jr. out of Indiana at wide receiver to the Panthers. That's what I think. Given what we have available, I think that's my best value pick as far as need and who's available.
Yeah, this is a good one. That's a good one. Now we're here with Dallas Cowboys' second pick in the draft. They got their safety with Caleb Downs on that 12th overall pick. Now they're picking at 20. Still have needs at linebacker, corner, edge, offensive tackle. You just kind of look around. You've got Keldrick Falk out of Auburn at edge. He's hanging out right there. You've got Caden Proctor, offensive tackle, Alabama. Blake Miller, offensive tackle at Clemson. Just some guys that I think could play right tackle right away, basically. If I'm Dallas, I'm trying to make sure I can stay good on the offensive line. They've had some guys retire in recent years. I think Caden Proctor is probably the next best thing at getting him in that right tackle. He could kick into guard if that ends up working better for him, but I think he's a good prospect. So give me Caden Proctor, 20th overall to the Dallas Cowboys.
Caden Proctor. So this is one of those prospects, Daniel, again, is Proctor. I was very disappointed in the hype he had coming out of high school as a recruit, and the level of effort I received from him on the field was always confusing. Like, I know the talent's there. Maybe someone can unlock it, but to play at a place like Alabama and not give effort to me is a red flag. But again, this is one of those position of value. He hits all the measurables. If someone can unlock it, I'm not necessarily trusting Dallas's culture by any means. But that's one of those, every GM is saying, but I can get it out of him. They're at least believing
exactly.
So good pick there. Okay. Is the Steelers a place where you get a second quarterback? I think that's it's position of value. You get a fifth year.
This is where you start asking the question, man.
Yeah, this is where you start asking the question. And I'm going to say, if you're the Steelers and you've hit reset, you have a first round pick, and the second best quarterback in this draft is available, and you hope you're not here again because the Steelers are consistently 9-7.
Exactly.
I think they do it. I think they quote unquote reach. I do think Ty Simpson's the second best quarterback in the draft. I wonder where he would have been drafted if he had just stopped the season after the Georgia game, or even a little bit after that. He gets hurt at the end of the
They said
season.
he had
It
the
ends
best
poorly.
tape going through November. So
yeah, I don't think it's that big of a reach, but I can see everyone's big board. Yeah, give me Ty Simpson to the Steelers. And I mean, look, with quarterbacks, you try to draft your franchise guy in the first round. And if not, you try again. You have a first round pick. The second best quarterback on the board is available. I think you take him because you have 5 years of control for cheap. And if it works out, great. If it doesn't, you try again here in a couple of years and no harm done.
exactly. All right. Well, then here we are with the Chargers. We got Jim Harbaugh. He's got interior offensive line needs. He's got interior defensive line needs, edge rusher, really anything on defense. You've got Caden McDonald looking at you right there, defensive tackle, best tackle, defensive tackle available. But he's from Ohio State. You're not going to draft him. You're a Michigan man. So give me Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn. I think this is a great spot for him to go. Anything in the 20s, I think he's a great value pick. I think he could add a lot to a team right here.
Are you getting Falk out of Auburn? All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. I was looking at a prospect here. Okay, because the Eagles, I mean, look, the articles come out about, how are things really going with Jalen Hurts? The Eagles are like, they're great. We don't know what you're talking about. It's like, okay. Then they're going to draft Kenyon Sadiq, tight end at 23. Let's give him another weapon if we believe in Jalen Hurts. I mean, by God, we're going to run the ball. So let's get a tight end in here to run some 13 personnel. Yeah, give me Sadiq out of Oregon to the Eagles here at 23.
All right. Well, now we're here with the Cleveland Browns at 24 overall. This is their second pick of the first round. Of course, they got Carnell Tate to start with. At this point, you're just taking value, and I think there's no better value than getting a starter at this point. I think Blake Miller, offensive tackle at Clemson, 4-year starter. I think he is in plug and play at right tackle if he needs to be. And I think he needs to be in Cleveland. So they are looking for starters. I think they get one with Carnell Tate at wide receiver, and I think they get one with Blake Miller. You got to surround the team with talent. And I think this is exactly what they do here.
Boom, Blake Miller out of Clemson. All right, the Bears make the playoffs. So now they got a bottom draft pick. Need some help on the defensive line, both on the interior and the edge. Safety need. Man, I mean, you could go. I mean, you kind of need center help. Looking at the board here, man. Let's go Caden McDonald, Ohio State. I think he's the best interior defensive prospect here in the draft. 3 Ohio State players in the first round so far, or 4? 4 Ohio State players. Be more. Yeah, this is a big. Maybe Ohio State should win the title this past year.
They're very, a lot of talent on that. Actually, roster. No, that's 5.
No, I was about to say, I was like
3 straight, and then Caleb Downs, and then yeah.
No,
so
Caden McDonald.
That's their 5th one.
Caden McDonald, Ohio State, to the Bears.
All right, this is where you start to get about preference. About these teams are. I think they can go outside of positional need if they need to. You're at the end of the first round. It's about getting guys that you want good control over for the next 5 years. You'll see trades into the first round from the top of the second round because you get that 5th year control. Remember the Buffalo Bills at 26th overall? They've got a few needs. They always need an explosive wide receiver. I don't know. Casey Concepcion right here makes some sense to me. I also really like getting linebacker CJ Allen from Georgia. I think right here is a good spot. They have a need at linebacker. He didn't test super well, which I think is why he's kind of dropping to the late first round, early second round grade for a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, turn on the tape. This dude is special, captain of the defense. You're not going to regret taking him and having him under control for 5 years.
I wasn't going to do this on purpose, but I was looking at what was left, and I do have, as a fan of CJ Allen, I do have my dream spot for him if he starts dropping in the draft, which it looks like he's going to go late first round at this point. Dude, him on the Texans would be sick.
Yeah.
Like him and Will Anderson in the same defense, and the same defense that has Stingley and Kamari Lassiter at the corner. They're just trickling down with DeMeco Ryans.
DeMeco Ryans was coached by, Kirby Smart, so they all, know similar things. So that's a spot right there, man. That would be a good spot.
Yeah, CJ Allen to Buffalo. All right, that puts us at the 49ers. I think they could go two different ways here. Do I go tackle with Caleb Lomu out of Utah? Do I go wide receiver, which could go a few ways here? What do you think, Daniel? Think they're going tackle or wide receiver, given who?
It's just that, I mean, personally, I value. I think there's more. I think there's a deeper wide receivers in this draft. I think there's only like six or seven offensive tackles that are worth
Okay,
their salt.
that's fair.
So that's usually how I would grade it. But if you're asking me straight up, KC Concepcion versus Caleb Lomu, I like Concepcion more. He's a sexier pick, but I think the better pick would probably be Lomu.
I'm going Lomu, Utah. Yeah, I'm like I did it on my side. You made a good point about the, 6 versus several. Yeah, Caleb Lomu, Utah to the 49ers at pick 27.
Well, here at pick 28, I'm already sad because I want CJ Allen, just like you mentioned. They would be loving him here. They could use any interior offensive lineman, defensive lineman. There's a lot of needs in Houston. There's talk that they're even, interested in quarterback going forward. They're trying to figure everything out. But while we're here, I like Peter Woods out of Clemson at this spot as you get towards the end of the first round. So just give me Peter Woods. We'll take him, Houston Texans, and I think that'll be a good spot.
All right. Daniel, I'm going to go that the Chiefs can get Mahomes back from injury and say, hey, man, we got you a special gift, and it's KC Concepcion out of Texas A&M. Enjoy. And they draft him at number 29 overall from Texas A&M to the Chiefs.
I love it. All right. Well, right here at the end, so Miami Dolphins with their second pick of the draft, they had number 11 overall, where you had them taking Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle. So right here, they're probably upset they just missed out on KC. I think you've got a couple of different ways they can go. I like Avian Terrell out of Clemson at corner. So that's one of their biggest needs. So I'll go Avian Terrell right here at number 30.
I love it. All right, Avian Terrell, Clemson, and Miami. Okay. We've got the Super Bowl contenders now. The Patriots need some wide receiver. I think you're reaching at this point if you take wide receiver. Edge, you
Plus,
could
the worst kept secret, they're going to be trading for A.J. Brown. Don't you know?
Yeah, worst kept
June
secret.
1st, so.
Edge, you could take here. Edge do I like best at this point. This is tough. I think if you're the Patriots, you're hoping C.J. Allen is still available, and if not, I don't think you're going linebacker. I will go edge, Daniel. Let me go Zion Young out of Missouri.
That's good.
I think he's best left at this point. You get a high-value player in the first round. You get a body in there. Zion Young, Missouri.
That is good. Now you're at last pick of the first round. Seattle Seahawks, Super Bowl champs. I think you can do a couple of different things here. I mean, obviously, they just let their, Kenneth Walker, their running back, the Super Bowl MVP, they let him walk. If there was a running back worthy, this is a great spot for him. Like I said before, after Jeremiah Love, I don't think there is one. I think there's only a handful of guys that are even draftable this year. It's not a really great running back draft. Edge, if there was someone that made sense, I like Zion Young, like you just got with the Patriots. I like him here. If he makes it, if he does not, additional value, interior line, offensive line is what they, could use, but that's going to be more later in the draft. I don't think they draft that here. I'm going best player available, and in my book, that's going to be Christian Miller out of Georgia, defensive tackle. You could see him come off the board like I did a couple of spots ago with the Texans. It just comes down to preference on who they prefer. I like Christian Miller out of Georgia, defensive tackle, rounding out the first round with Seattle Seahawks.
Okay, Daniel. All right, best players that are left here. What's funny is I was writing down Christian Miller. That was one of my favorite players that were left.
Yeah.
So I'm like, there, you took that one. I didn't know where you were going to go, but I was like, we'll see. Who are some of your best players that were not drafted that you think will be, how's that, like multi-year starters in the NFL? Maybe not Pro Bowl, but I mean, if you want to go Pro Bowl, like just who are the best prospects that will make an impact in the NFL that we loved watching in college?
Yeah, they I had some of these guys that we picked at the end of the first round are guys that are actually not projected to go in the first round. So some of those guys are my
Yes.
favorites. But as I'm going through, all my stuff is loading very slowly. I know that, you know, off the top,
I can give you
Zachariah
one.
Branch. I mean, I like Branch at receiver. I don't think that his size has helped him be a first round pick. His production was there, but I think he's going to be probably more middle second round to middle to end of the second round because of his size, because he can't play every down. Yeah, give me a couple.
Just be careful. You don't want him standing in the way in the tunnel of these stadiums. If he's standing too much in the way, security might come get him.
Oh my
So just
gosh,
be careful there with Zach Branch.
it's only the Athens
Anthony Hill,
QB. Yeah.
Texas. Yeah, Anthony Hill out of Texas. That's my favorite that's left. He's one of the players that I think coming out of high school, I would have said as a no down first rounder. I think he played like it at Texas. So that's one of those players that as a college fan, I'm sitting here going, I think you're out thinking the room when you're looking at somebody like, and I mean, even though I, even though I drafted him, like if you're the Patriots, you're going linebacker or edge. I know I took Zion Young because I'm trying to be a little bit realistic of what's actually going to happen, but like I think Anthony Hill's a better player, different positions, a different value there, but I think
Right.
Anthony Hill's a great linebacker and he's one of my favorite players that's left.
Jacob Rodriguez is one of these guys out of Texas Tech, linebacker, getting a lot of run for potential late first round guy. I like him a lot. I think he's going to amount to something at the next level. This is a very heavy wide receiver draft. So, we were talking about some different guys. Jeremy Bernard is also in that category. I think he's going to be special. Let me see. There was another player that I really liked.
Can I pause you on Jacob Rodriguez? Jacob Rodriguez is my answer to another question we were going to ask, which is late bloomer or peaked in college. I think Jacob Rodriguez is a peaked in college player.
Okay. I like that.
Do you have one at the top of your head of peaked in college?
Yeah, if we're going to do peaked in college, I mean, mine's kind of an ultimate peaked in college. Diego Pavia. I don't think that he's going to be a NFL prospect, and I don't want to feel like I'm punching down, but I was just listening to Daniel Jeremiah talk about, it was either him or Todd McShay recently, talking about the Senior Bowl and how there were 6 quarterbacks that were there and only 5 of them should have been there. And he was basically just like, it just doesn't make sense. There may be a team that tries to draft him in like the 7th round, but it's probably going to be undrafted free agent, and he's not exactly the kind of guy that's going to win you over in the room. And so while I think he was a really good college player and it really electric and really changed a lot of like college football talk the past couple of years, definitely not any sort of a NFL prospect.
Yeah, that was some low hanging fruit with Pavia, Pavia's game not translated to the NFL. That absolutely. I agree with you. Okay, some more play.
For those of you hearing, we're getting a little talking over each other because of technical issues, but it's probably my internet. That being said, we drafted him in the first round. Monroe Freeling, I think his best football is ahead of him. He had only 18 starts at Georgia, so he was injured for some of that. And, I don't think he ever put a complete, season together. So I think he could, to a starting NFL left tackle, and he still has a ton. If you look at his RAS score, like his relative athletic score, that was like through the roof. He was one of the top tackles to ever test. So I think he's got a ton of upside. As the NFL draft experts like to say, he's got a ton of upside. But of course, you get drafted 11th overall.
Let me throw you a few players that I like, and you kind of call out a couple that you either agree with me or can disagree on. I said Anthony Hill Jr., Texas, Jeremy Bernard, Deion Burks, 2 wide receivers out of Alabama and Oklahoma. Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida. I think he could go in the first round, maybe. Yep. Dalen Everett, corner out of Georgia. Reminds me a lot of Kamari Lassiter in that I think was underrated in college, played 4 years for a Kirby Smart defense, and could easily be a day 1 starter in the NFL and work his butt off and shock people after camp and have a starting job, even though he might not be a day 1 player. And then Oscar Delp, also out of Georgia, tight end. I think his best ball is ahead of him as a tight end. He was a more traditional tight end, and I think after Brock Bowers, it was like, okay, you had the generational Brock Bowers, and then a big drop off to everybody else. Still think Oscar Delp is an incredible tight end, a lot faster than I think his stats showed this year. And lastly, call me a believer in Drew Alar still.
Okay. I can see that. He definitely has the traits. We'll see if he can ever put it together. Yeah, I think those all sound good. And I just have a couple more that are, as far as our, like, these guys, watch out for them, I guess. I'm interested in if Taylon Green stays at quarterback. He says he wants to, which every athletic quarterback says that, but he's an athletic freak. Yeah. He ran like a 4.4, and he's built the same dimensions as Calvin Johnson. So do with that what you will. I think that he really intrigues me as a later round pick. Harold Perkins, I think, is one of these guys out of LSU who at one point, Jacob, his freshman year, we probably were projecting him to come out and be, after 3 years, come out and be like a first round pick. That was kind of the vibe because of his pass rush. He never quite got to put it all together each of the following years, whether it be due to injury or positional change or whatever it may have been. I think that he's got a lot of value on day 3 for whoever, is up with him. If they, he gets with the right coach who's puts him in the right position to get after the passer. That one intrigues me a lot.
Nick Singleton, Penn State. I think will be playing downs in the NFL next season.
I agree. That's a good one.
Jacoby Lane, USC.
List to see if
wide receiver.
Let's see here if there's any other ones that I have.
My last one, Lorenzo Styles, Ohio State. A lot of Ohio State love today. Lorenzo Styles, I think, is, again, devalued safety position, but could easily find his way playing nickel on roster somewhere next year.
Someone that I just heard about, Renee Conga. Watch out for him out of Louisville. New to football-ish, but he tested crazy, like a 10-200 meter guy, and he's a defensive tackle. One of those athletic freaks, but doesn't really have the tape to do it just yet. But you can see him again, day 3. That's when you get those guys. They're just, hey, they may not have the tape. You may not know exactly what they're going to do, but you're going to mold them. That's when you're getting the clay on those days, so you can mold them into what you want. I don't think we're missing anybody that I was wanting to talk about. I think we're good.
There you go. I love it. Daniel, that will do it for this episode of the NFL Draft. Next episode, be sure to tune in. We're doing a little special edition college football episode with one of my favorite topics, uniforms. So we're going to talk about the Oregon Ducks. How did they revolutionize uniforms, not just in college football, but in the NFL too? Because teams are wearing different uniforms in the NFL as well. And this really all started with Oregon and Nike. And we actually got a really cool interview with Richard Backus, who was one of the designers for the Nike uniforms when Oregon first rolled them out and decided to be different. He designed the Nike logo. So we get the story from the source. We'll talk some of our favorite and least favorite Oregon uniforms. So something special about college football is uniforms. Can't talk about uniforms without Oregon. So that'll be here on the next episode. Be sure to follow us at the Extra Point Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can follow Daniel on Twitter at Deep South Daniel. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Carnes with a K. That'll do it for this edition of the Extra Point. He is Daniel. I am Jacob. See ya.